Friday lunchtime in a small church hall in Greenock, and around 5 or 6 tables, groups of women are chatting and making crafts. There are lots of children around, cups of coffee being drunk. Some are new faces, but for others this has become a regular and really important part of their life.
My confidence was very low, so I came along to this group just to find out what it was about. I had no idea. There's a lot of people in this area who are maybe not working, they're at home with their children, a lot of kind of mums I know, very isolated, and it's actually the first thing I think that's gotten me to come out and commit.
Anne Donaghy is part of a group sitting around one of the tables. They're called Five Mummies Make. In a week or so, there's a big event on their calendar. They're holding a vintage tea party to showcase and sell the craft items that they've made within the group, from stuffed sock monkeys to baby blankets to vintage cards and invitations. They're part of a wider movement called Self-Reliant Groups, SRGs. The idea originally came from India, and it's all about giving people from disadvantaged communities the tools and opportunities to change their own lives and perhaps even start their own business. The initial fact-finding trip to India was funded by the Church of Scotland and its Guild, and there are still strong links. Noel Matthias is Managing Director of Revolution, the charity which coordinates and supports the work.
We have so many people with so many skills in communities that are called disadvantaged, and probably these are least understood communities with least understood people. And we wanted to find a way of working alongside them that was more about trusting them rather than giving targets to them or setting aims and outcomes for them. The idea was to create an environment where people could actually help themselves to move on in life, and we came up with the idea of actually learning it from another country, India, and that's how the whole movement here in Scotland has begun.
Part of what you do is provide loans on occasion, isn't it? I mean, how does that work, and what's the money used for?
We've got a capital fund of £200,000, again given by the Guild and the Ministry's Council of the Church of Scotland. The loans are meant for enterprising ideas for SRGs. So last month, for instance, we had 3 SRGs that took loans of £200, £300 and £5,000. These are really small amounts of money. What it does is enables them to move on with their ideas without being bogged down by all the loan criteria that other financial institutions might have. And that's what Revolution ultimately does. It says we will put every mechanism in place if you have an aspiration to move on in life.
But you don't want to be lending money if it cannot be paid back. So you do have to have some controls in place, don't you?
We do. And again, what we have is a group criteria. And the group criteria would have something like savings, regular meetings, a group agreement. So we do have a check in place, but the check is done by the group itself rather than Revolution. Ultimately, there is an agreement between the group and Revolution.
Now, although your roots come from a faith-based organisation and some of the finance does, you're not operating a kind of faith-based group here, are you?
No, it is not a faith-based group at all, but faith does not mean that it needs to have boundaries within which it needs to do work with people. Our people work from churches here, and they are not going to come to church on a Sunday, but clearly would have a high regard and respect for the enabling factor that the church has played in their lives so crucially here in these communities.
Noel Matthias there, and he points out that although they're not operating a faith-based organisation, 90 to 95% of the groups do meet in churches. Part of what binds all these people in this hall together is a commitment to regular saving as a group and developing together as a group. So what does Anne Donaghy get out of it?
I don't work. I haven't worked for some years now since I had my son. For me personally, it was a confidence boost. But it's also given me that kind of next step to going towards employment again. I also like the idea of it's letting me do things for myself as opposed to everybody kind of helping you with things. You don't always need that. I'm living on benefits at the moment. I don't want to live like that forever. This is allowing me to see, you know what, there is actually a way out of this and there is a next step.
What's the long-term Five Mummies Make? Or do you want to start a business? Because I'm assuming... What, any money that you make at the moment goes back into the group,
yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. So at the moment it's not so much an income for us at all, but it is for getting our name out there, and then hopefully from that we do develop.
Do you also save as a group? Because that's part of the self-reliant group ethos, isn't it?
Absolutely. We do, on a weekly basis, we save £4 each between the 5 of us. We put that into the pot. Again, that's either used for things like stock, if we want to buy some stock to make products. If there ever was a point where one of us kind of, and you do get into, I mean, I know myself, I've been in points where I'm kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul, if you like. But we do have that kind of security where we can go to the group and say, look, can we take X amount, £20, £30? Can I take it? I'll pay it back next week, next month. And there is that option to do that within the group, definitely. And we've got that trust within the group that we can do that now too.
Anne Donaghy from Five Mummies Make. Although men are welcome, it's mainly women in the hall today. Weevolution development worker in Greenock, Marion Morrison, says people come for a variety of reasons.
Most girls that are coming to our SRG groups are moms, and they're just looking to be part of something, be part of a strong movement where women are coming together. Men are included as well, but we have majority of women at the moment. But they want to come to something that they can feel a part of and something that they can feel of value. Girls that are coming in with their heads down and saying they don't have any skills, and you can see results within a few weeks. These girls are coming in, their heads are held high, their shoulders are back, they're feeling involved, they're feeling as if they're part of something, and you can see the confidence growing, and it genuinely is such a beautiful thing to experience with the girls.
And is the idea that they would, or some of them anyway, would be starting small businesses?
Yeah, we currently have a few girls who are in self-reliant groups here who their initial aims were to just be part of a group, but they've seen how talented and how skilled they are, and they are now selling items in our local Greenock Town Centre in a shop. They have shelves in a shop. Their next steps would be to start their own small businesses in the future.
Marion Morrison. Children at a city centre nursery learning a little Spanish. Adelaide's is housed in the building of a Baptist church in Glasgow. There's also a small guest house, and the building itself is for hire. The idea was to make some money to help with the upkeep of a huge and beautiful old building, as well as for the church to embed itself firmly in the community. Rena Allen is manager at Adelaide's.
We have three facets to the business. We have a children's nursery, daycare, which operates 50 weeks of the year. We have a small guest house with 8 bedrooms, and we have visitors from overseas, from everywhere. And I think because of our central location, it's particularly popular. And we also have the auditorium, which is where the church is held. We use that for hire. We have choirs that practice here. We've had Celtic Connections held here. We've had Scottish opera rehearse here. All people from all sorts of walks of life come and use Adelaide's. We have union meetings, we have all sorts of things here. So it's a very interesting place to work.
So just give me a bit of the history of Adelaide's. How did it move from being a very traditional, I suppose, church into something which incorporates lots of different things?
Adelaide's began in something like 1877, I think it was. I think they had premises in Hope Street, and then they came up to Bath Street. They had quite famous parishioners. They had the founder of Quarrier Homes was a parishioner here. The gentleman that ran Coates Thread Mill in Paisley was a parishioner here. But as time went on, I think it was around about 1988, they were facing closure because it's a huge building, as you can see, and it's a huge upkeep. So they decided that they wanted to work with the community, and the natural progression was they held a Sunday school here every week, so they thought, why don't we work with the community and have a children's nursery daycare, because that was when daycare was starting to become really popular. And then they had the 8 rooms, so they thought, let's have 8 bedrooms and have a safe haven for people, tourists visiting Glasgow, and also the auditorium had the great acoustics, so they thought, we'll hire that out as rehearsals space. And that happened 25 years ago, and the businesses just went from strength to strength. They got quite a large loan. Historic Scotland helped too, and in the intervening years, 25 years, you know, the loan has not paid off, but it's nearly there. And all of the money that comes from Adelaide's goes back into the business for staff training, for staff conditions, for working with the community. The Beatson is actually our cancer hospitals, our charity, and Women's Aid, so we try and collect money for those particular charities. That's the nursery charities and the guest house charities. Obviously the church are sort of worldwide, really.
So these businesses are not primarily about making a lot of money,
No.
although the money that they do make would go into the building and things like of that sort.
The biggest drain of our resources is probably the upkeep of the building, because it's a B-listed building, it's massive. So my charge is the upkeep of the building and to keep the business going. The business operates quite separately from the church. They don't interfere in the day-to-day running, but they're very, very supportive.
And you said that the church and the business are quite separate. Are they Christian businesses? Do they have a Christian ethos or a faith kind of ethos?
Yes, we do have a Christian ethos, but we're multicultural, you know, like as all businesses are now. The Christian ethos comes from the care of staff, how our users are respected and welcomed, and obviously Christianity is at the base of Adelaide's. But, you know, staff are all multicultural, users are multicultural, everyone's welcome at Adelaide, so it's a very, although it's steeped in that kind of Christian ethos and in history, it's very modern in its outlook, I would say.
We hear a lot now about churches trying to pay their own way for the buildings, trying to make themselves relevant part of the community. But that was quite a vision, wasn't it, 25 years ago?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You know, and it's never waned in its enthusiasm. You know, I'm overseen by a board of directors who are all members of the church here, and they've come from all walks of life. We have a health and safety officer, we have an accountant that comes in, we have someone who's retired now from local authority. We have all sorts of people. We have a nursery teacher as well that's also a parishioner here and is on the board. And they come in and they've got lots of ideas. We're always trying to think of something else to do with Adelaide. So it's a very dynamic place to work.
What about the future?
Who knows? Who knows? We did look at expanding the nursery at times in the past and sort of, you know, having maybe other centres. But we found that because we feel that we do it really well here, we didn't want to spread ourselves any thinner. So that was looked at and sort of shelved. That's not to say that wouldn't happen again. The building is going to go through hopefully another refurbishment. The church is growing. We've got quite a young congregation that come to the church. We've got a new minister, new pastor who's very sort of young and forward thinking, so that's quite exciting. I don't really know what the future holds. I think hopefully what we all want to do is just stay the good quality workplace business that we are and possibly expand when the time's right.
Rena Allen. A busy cafe just off Edinburgh's Grassmarket. A city walking tour has just stopped off for some refreshments and the staff are being kept pretty busy. This is the cafe at the Grassmarket Community Project. Its roots are in a joint project between Greyfriars Kirk and the Grassmarket Mission, which was working mainly with people who were homeless. The project expanded and an independent charity was formed. It's now home to 4 separate social enterprises. This cafe, the wider venue itself, furniture making or other woodwork and making tartan products. This is a bright, welcoming space, and that was a deliberate decision, as Johnny Kinross, Chief Executive of the project, explains.
For a long time, soup kitchens and services like that, wonderful services that they often are, reaching out to the poorest in society, were delivered out of the back of a church or a community hall that was a bit run down and was struggling. And he really wanted a space where those people could walk in and blend in and feel just immediately from walking into such a bright space that they were worth something more.
Someone would come here and they'd take part in classes or what? I mean, how does it work?
Yeah, so building on the early days of the work that the Greyfriars Kirk and Grassmarket Mission were doing around providing activities in and around the soup kitchen, we just formalised that a bit more and had gradually gone from 1 or 2 activities to about 30 a week. And those activities are designed to help people connect with one another, get people out of their own accommodation where they may be feeling isolated, people who consider themselves to really be looking for a bit of support in terms of connecting with other individuals to help them improve their situation, to tap into activities that will build their confidence. So there's a lot of creative activities that we would deliver, drama, art, community choir, music. These are the kind of activities that really can build someone's confidence.
It's not just providing those services, though, is it? Because the idea was always from the beginning that this building had to contribute a lot in cash terms to the running of the project. I mean, how's that achieved?
The brief for the architects was that they should design a space that we could then sell and generate an income from. So of our 4 social enterprises, our most successful in financial terms is our actual centre. So we have an award-winning venue which we use for conferences, we've used for weddings, gigs, concerts, film screenings, the launch of Kezia Dugdale's leadership campaign, and a lot of debates in and around the referendum were held here. Really important. What our customers value above anything else is that the services that are delivered, including all the catering and the running of the venue, the vast majority of the staff are people who would have had support issues, or what we would call vulnerable adults, that have come onto the project as members and eventually been supported in either paid employment or into trainee posts.
And is that a positive reason why people come here, or it's just by the by, it happens to be like that?
I think it's a combination. We would never want that to be the only reason. First and foremost, we want it to be comparable with our competitors. And so it has to be really high quality because we charge the same rate as our competitors. But there will be a number of our customers that would have looked us out in the first instance because they want to make a difference as well.
In an upstairs room at the centre, the wood workshop is a busy place. Here they work on furniture and other commissions. Tommy Steele is a senior manager at the Grassmarket community project in the workshop.
On a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the guys are working on commissions. Our main business is recycling church pews, and more often than not, when a church donates pews to us, they commission something to be made from their own pews. That's part of what we're working on today, but we do commissions for anyone at all. Slightly different day on a Friday. We have new starts on a Friday. We call it a drop-in, where people can book a place and they come along, often with their support worker, often really lacking confidence and self-esteem. They come in struggling to speak, struggling to make eye contact. The main focus is to, with a little bit of support, to ensure that they design a product, manufacture that product, and at the end of the day then, I can look at that and they can look me straight in the eye and be proud of what they've achieved, and I can say to them, well done, that's absolutely beautiful. Just in a few hours you can really make a difference to someone's self-esteem.
So, just tell me what some of the success stories as you view them are.
The social enterprise is a completely different model from what I've ever worked with before. Journeying with someone side by side every day, creating an environment that they want to be in. We have standards in the workshop that they are proud of and they take out into their own personal lives. You're asking about success stories. A good example, a gentleman who came into the workshop, he had been unemployed for 18 years unemployed, and on his first day I realised this is a really nice guy. I can see he's hard working, he's enthusiastic, he was here on time, he was just a good guy to work with, and as the time went on he became a great player within the team. And after a couple of months, 2 months in, 2 daughters came in, and they literally said to me, I don't know what you're doing with my dad, because he's just a new man, he's totally motivated, he comes home at night, showing us pictures of what he's made, he can't stop talking about what he's made, he's talking about the people in the workshop. And then after 8 months of coming into the workshop, he had problems with the benefits agencies. He was having his benefits sanctioned and he was losing money. What I said to him at that point was, what you need to do then to get them off your back and stop the sanctions is get a job. That's what you need to do. And that may be a little bit controversial, because I know other support workers would say, let's get an appeal in and get your money back at the Dole office. But, I felt the guy had the skills. As I said to him, you've got the skills, you've got the work ethic, you've got the teamwork skills, you're a hard worker, you've just got everything that an employer would dream of, so you need to get a job. And what he said to me, like most people would say, is, but there are no jobs. But I reminded him that I didn't want him to solve unemployment in Edinburgh or in Scotland. What I said was, there may not be jobs for everyone in Edinburgh who are unemployed, but you're looking for one job. And I'm sure there's more than one job out there. And he had a job within a couple of weeks, and he's now been promoted.
In a room at the centre, a small conference is taking place. This kind of event is bread and butter for the centre. Busy helping is events assistant Julia. It's her second week in the job, but she started off as a volunteer.
I became a volunteer about just over 4 years ago in the woodwork department, which I thoroughly enjoyed. It gave me an excuse to get out of the house, motivation, determination, friends, just a fantastic group of people to work with. Actually, it's like a second home here. I'm now a full-time member of staff as an events assistant. I would never have seen myself here 4.5 years ago, 5 years ago.
Why not?
I just didn't have the motivation, confidence, just out of contact with everyone and everything. And just coming here has given me something to look forward to.
When did you last have a job?
About 18 years ago.
Very long time.
Very long time. So it's a very new thing to me really now.
How does that feel? You're in your second week. How does it feel to be in a paid job?
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. My children are very proud. I'm proud that I've managed to come this far. It's all good.
So what about the balance between providing services for its members and making money from its social enterprises to allow those services to be delivered? I asked Johnny Kinross if it was a difficult balance.
What's absolutely fundamental to all these social enterprises is the engagement of our members, our beneficiaries. We wouldn't do what we do if it was just about making money for the charity. We want to actually engage our members at every level of the organisation because we want to create as many opportunities for our members.
How do you get the balance right between this place making money, which it has to, and you still providing services? Is that difficult sometimes?
It's very hard. It's made easier by our investors and our donors. So for every level of excitement that I have around social enterprise and generating income from social enterprise and running businesses, I still have to go to trusts and funding bodies and Scottish Government for start-up funds and stuff like that for our businesses, because if I don't, then I'd be taking money from our core charitable income. So our core charitable income still makes up a proportion of our overall income, and to an extent, I think it always will. We put ourselves out there as a supportive employer that will work with people with quite complex needs, and that costs money, and that would cost money, more money than maybe a customer's prepared to pay. So I wouldn't want to charge you an expensive coffee because I had to train someone up to make that coffee, more than a commercial cafe had to train someone up. But that's the reality. I would have to put in more input. So somewhere along the line, we need an investor or a donor that recognises that for every pound that they put in, it helps us become more sustainable because it increases the capacity of our social enterprise, but also they create work for opportunities for our members. But it is a constant dilemma. Our spaces, for example, a wonderful building like this, which is very sought after by a lot of our customers for conferences and the kind of training and product launches and things that I mentioned earlier on. I have to balance that with the needs of the organisation to deliver activities for our members. One of the key ways that I deal with that dilemma is I keep the members on board. We are a membership organisation. We have monthly meetings. We talk about the pressures openly. The festival is a great example. So during the festival, we had 30,000 people in this building over 4 weeks. That's a lot of disruption for our members. They have to be flexible if they want us to generate that income, which they do.
Is part of what you want to do here to prepare people for employment? It's
absolutely key to what we do, employability. I just think we go about it in a different way. I think we're afforded the, dare I say, luxury of having from our own cash we generated through businesses that we can take the longer term view. I've worked in some really fantastic employability programs, but I've also worked in some employability programs where there's pressures to turn somebody's life around in 3 months or 6 months. We will work with people for as long as it takes. I would argue that it's far more effective what we do. It takes a lot longer. It might cost a bit more money in the short term, but where we have had successes is with people who haven't worked for decades, and we will build a really strong relationship with them, and we will have a relationship with them such that we can not just signpost them to applying for a job or support them to apply for a job, but we can actually more or less take them to the door of that job and say, go in there and do that, and you can do it. Knowing they've got our support, whether they get the job or not, behind them, with them, beside them, makes a huge difference.
Johnny Kinross of the Grassmarket Community Project. And that's it from this edition of the programme. Some inspiring stories. I hope you can join us again next week. From me, Gillian Sharp. Goodbye.